For the first time in my life, Canada has qualified for the final round of CONCACAF's World Cup Qualifiers. We did it. We're in the octagonal. Top 8 in CONCACAF, 3.5 spots out of 8 to go to the World Cup Finals in Qatar next December. Years of garbage teams. Years of just disappointment, of 8-1 to Honduras in a last game to qualify for the final round, of an entire year in 2013 where we only scored 1 goal, of 2017, 2019 losing in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, 2013, 2015 not even making the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, going out in the group stage. Years and years and years of disappointment, of underachieving, of just being bad. And now finally, we're where we should be. Bermuda, Aruba, Cayman Islands, Suriname, the demons Haiti. Our demon, Haiti. All out of the way, and we are now in the final 8 in CONCACAF. Exactly what I said in my preview for this match. Honestly, I'm shocked that I was this accurate with my predictions. 1-0 in Haiti, 3-0 in Chicago. Kyle Larin scoring a goal in each leg. He has been absolutely incredible in the World Cup qualifiers this year, scoring 7 goals in 6 games for Canada. Just a dominant force up front. And honestly, Kyle Larin, I have to give a huge round of applause to him, as in the span of 2-3 years, he went from kind of a joke because he forced his way out of MLS to Besiktas, had this whole big, oh, I'm too good for MLS mentality going on, went to Turkey and kind of flopped out, ended up last season on loan in Belgium, only scored 7 goals in the Belgian league, while Jonathan David, a fellow Canadian, won the Golden Boot in that league. And then this year, he goes back to Besiktas, and he's their top scorer as they win the Turkish league. And then he comes to the Canadian national team, a team where in his past he'd been so hyped up as a future star for the Canadian national team, never really hit his stride, and then in this World Cup qualifiers just was lights out. He went from just a guy who never really reached what he could have reached to, oh my god, he's actually being amazing. Junior Hoylett getting another goal. Great to see him back in the lineup after the injury against the Cayman Islands. Scored against the Cayman Islands, was hurt for a bit, came in as a sub against Haiti and scores at the very end. And then, of course, the disastrous own goal for Haiti, the worst own goal I think I've ever seen, as the Montreal-born keeper for Haiti, Duverger, that's a bad pronunciation, ball passed back to him, fluffs it once between his legs, goes back to hit it again, fluffs it a second time. Man was nutmegged twice by his own teammate in his net, and that was just really disappointing for him because I thought he had played an absolutely fantastic game up to that point. He had that amazing triple save on Jonathan David in the first half where David really should have had one. And he was literally hanging on, keeping Haiti in that game. And then he ended up making the mistake that cost them their chance of coming back, as after that point down 2-0 on aggregate. And then Kyle Larin scores again, Junior Hoylett scores, and Haiti is pushed to the side. Really though, 2 guys that I want to talk about before I went on to my preview for the octagonal. Kyle Larin already did absolutely fantastic. Scott Kennedy, when he was called up for these World Cup qualifiers, was a who? 24-year-old center back playing in the German 2 Bundesliga. Not very many people have heard of him. He was fantastic. Absolutely incredible. A solid rock in the back end. I was a little shocked when he was getting his first ever cap against Suriname in that must-win game, and he was pretty solid. And then he got the start again against Haiti, and then he got the start again in the second leg against Haiti. And I was like, and continually as I watched him play and watched him settle into the role of the national team, I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal. And just absolute incredible, mad props to Scott Kennedy to come in, get your first caps for the national team in 3 incredibly important do-or-die World Cup qualifying games, and have the team get clean sheets in all 3 of them as a center back. Just absolute mad props to him. Guys who are consistent and solid at the center back position is something that Canada has lacked. Guys who can play the ball forward from the center back position, which Scott Kennedy has played some fantastic balls forward in these 3 games. That's rare for the Canadian national team. I'm incredibly impressed with him. Great find and great realization of what he is by John Herdman and the Canadian team camp, honestly, to realize what they have in Scott Kennedy there. He is shockingly good for how I had heard honestly nothing about him prior to these World Cup qualifiers. I'm sure we're going to start hearing a lot more about Scott Kennedy in the Canadian soccer circles now that he's really shown that he can be a regular for the Canadian national team. I think we're going to see a lot of him going into the octagonal, which leads us into the octagonal. So Canada, first time in the final round of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying since 1997 in the qualification for the 1998 World Cup. First time in my life that they're in the final round of CONCACAF qualification. This year it's a octagonal instead of a hexagonal due to scheduling changes, due to, the COVID thing. So not as elite as a group of usually, but CONCACAF as a whole, I think, is at a higher level than it was in years past, so these are 8 quite good teams. So the octagonal composes this year of Mexico, USA, obviously perennial contenders in CONCACAF, the 2 best teams in CONCACAF. Usually, the USA sometimes flops out. Mexico, though, very solid team on the global scale. Costa Rica, solid. Maybe not as good this year as they have been in some of the past years in the past decade. Still a very solid team in CONCACAF. Honduras, we know Canada has had trouble in Honduras in the past. Honduras is kind of the epitome of peak CONCACAFery when you go and play them in World Cup qualifiers. That match away should be very interesting. Final team of the 5 that automatically qualify due to their FIFA World Rankings, Jamaica. Really interesting team in Jamaica, another team like Canada on the up and up. Leon Bailey recently committed to playing for them. They're getting some solid players now committing to play for them. They are getting better. Probably one of the top 4 teams in CONCACAF right now at this moment. And then the 3 teams that qualified through the first, second rounds didn't automatically get the pass-throughs through CONCACAF. Obviously, Canada. Fantastic. El Salvador, who beat St. Kitts and Nevis 5-0 on aggregate, and Panama, who beat Curacao 2-1 on aggregate. Panama, of course, just qualified for their first ever World Cup in 2018. They're a very interesting one in that regard as well. So, how do I think this is going to shape up? Mexico, first, obviously. Just best team in CONCACAF right now, obviously. They're just solid, used to playing in CONCACAF locations. They're not going to be as phased by away games in Honduras, in Costa Rica, in Panama as the US or Canada might be. Second place should be the USA. I'm saying should be because the USA can get CONCACAF. The USA is not immune to being CONCACAF. And also they have some shaky times, like the last World Cup qualifiers where they didn't even qualify for the intercontinental playoffs. That being said, this is a very new, younger, rejuvenated US team. Got some very, very solid players, Timothy Weah, Christian Pulisic. Zach Steffen is a very solid keeper playing backup for Manchester City now. Also, they just won the CONCACAF Nations League beating Mexico, so the US should be a lock for this World Cup. Third place is where it gets interesting because there's a lot of teams that can fit into that third place spot. Costa Rica is an option. Jamaica is an option. Canada is an option. Right now, I'm thinking that 3 and 4 should be Jamaica, Canada. Just on paper, Jamaica, Canada are the 2 top teams in terms of top-end talent in CONCACAF at this moment behind the US and Mexico. So it should be Jamaica, Canada. Right now, because of CONCACAF crap houser, I'm going to go Jamaica 3rd, Canada 4th in the intercontinental playoffs. That can change if Canada puts up good performances and shows some immunity to being CONCACAF. If every game was played neutral venue in France, like say, in front of fans of course, but let's say it was just a neutral venue in somewhere in Europe, or like in Canada or in the US, Canada would be a solid favorite to probably qualify straight for the World Cup. But the fact that we got to do Honduras away, Costa Rica away, El Salvador away, Panama away. That right there is prime CONCACAF territory. That is the areas where things kind of don't work the way they should in soccer, in football. So just because of that little thing, this is a Canada group that, yes, they've been very good, but they've played most of their games in the US, in Canada. Their away games so far have been Cuba, which they played in the US, I'm pretty sure, Haiti away. This group, since 2019, since the Nations League qualifying, hasn't properly gotten into the depths of CONCACAF yet. They haven't had to go to Central America and play in Central America yet, which, because of that, I'm slightly concerned. Unfortunately, all those games in CONCACAF are stacked in the back end of the World Cup qualifiers. We play against all those Central American teams at home. Our first road game is in September in the US, and then our second road game in October is in Mexico, which, yes, okay, Mexico is like CONCACAF level, but it's not like deep Central America CONCACAF level. And then we play all those Honduras, El Salvador, Panama, all those teams at home before in the back half going and having to deal with Honduras away, US at home, El Salvador away, Costa Rica away, Jamaica home, Panama away. That right there, the fact that that's our end stretch, it kind of scares me because it makes me get the feel that, you know, if we perform well at home in the home games and beat those teams at home, we're going to be halfway through the World Cup qualifiers and see us in like possibly second, third place and get really excited. And then we're going to have to deal with that bunch of games all on the road, back to back to back to back to back. That's deadly in CONCACAF. So this could happen where we're in like third, second place, and we go and we face like a 6th, 7th place Honduras or El Salvador and lose on the road. And that would be disastrous. And I think from a fan perspective, that could be heartbreaking. And I don't like saying it right out at the top, but the way this schedule seems to be set up for Canada is the highest potential for heartbreak. Playing most of the home games first means that we're going to get our good, fun, we're at home, us all at BMO Field, us all at BC Place, going and cheering on Canada at home. And then we're going to have the crowd pushing them forward to win those games. And then they're going to go on the road to the hellscape that is CONCACAF football in Central America. Well, they're up in the group, and it's going to be just potential for disaster. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but just the way it's set up, I would have preferred to have a more evenly split so that we could have some of those home games on the back end. The fact that the back end of the qualifiers are very stacked away for us kind of scares me. Okay, that was off topic a bit. Back to prediction levels. I'm doing 5th place Costa Rica, 6th place Honduras, 7th El Salvador, 8th Panama. Just kind of basing off of where I think those teams have been recently in terms of performances and in terms of the talent they have on their rosters right now. Panama seems a little weaker than even when they qualified for the World Cup. Had a tough run of Curacao, barely squeaking by 2-1. El Salvador got lucky and got a very easy draw in St. Kitts and Nevis after Trinidad and Tobago fell out of the qualifiers in the first round and kind of walked through. I feel like for a lot of these teams, the Gold Cup is going to be big for really seeing where they are when they're playing teams on their own level and other octagonal level teams. Because as of right now, in the past year, and even like we haven't seen any of these teams play in over a year before that because of COVID, we don't really have a comparison of them playing other good CONCACAF teams because it's been for Canada, for El Salvador, for Panama, them beating up lower ranked teams in CONCACAF. And then like Honduras, Costa Rica, we haven't seen them play proper competitive games in quite a while. I mean, there was the Nations League finals, but that was just them both one shot losing to Mexico and the US. So, you know, nothing really to compare them against to see how they're going to do against Jamaica's, against Canada's, against each other. So, you know, Gold Cup's going to be big for kind of plotting out where those things go, but that's my way too early predictions prior to seeing how these teams fare against each other in the Gold Cup. One last thing before I go, which was on a lot of people's minds last night immediately following the game when Canada qualified for the Octagonal, proving that we'd have 7 more home games in the next year in World Cup qualifiers. Where are they going to be? Because I saw a lot of people mad that One Soccer was like, at BMO field, at BMO field, at BMO field. Yes, BMO field is not the only field in Canada. Yes, playing in Toronto exclusively isn't a great look. However, BMO field is by far the best, highest quality pitch in Canada. Second best field in Canada that should probably get games in January, maybe February when BMO field's, covered in snow. BC Place in Vancouver, just because it's more mild there in the winter, and BC Place is also, despite being a polytan surface that is still a 2-star FIFA rate, it's kind of weird. I'm not really sure. It's not really grass, but it's not like bad synthetic turf. It's kind of a weird mix. I don't know, a lot of people are going to say, people from Edmonton, people from Ottawa, will be like, well, we hosted Women's World Cup games in 2015, so we should get World Cup qualifiers. Because your field hosted Women's World Cup games in 2015, you should be disqualified from hosting World Cup qualifiers. And that's me saying that, knowing that I'm going to be moving to Edmonton and living in Edmonton during this whole World Cup qualifying campaign, because as much as I'd like to see a game, AstroTurf just ain't it. And I know you're going to say, but if the women can play on it for the Women's World Cup, then certainly the men can play on it for a World Cup qualifier. The fact that the women played on those surfaces in the Women's World Cup, I'm very disappointed in Canada for doing that. That was just absolutely disastrous and so disrespectful to play a Women's World Cup on AstroTurf fields. And especially for these guys, especially at a condensed World Cup qualifying tournament, where now in international windows you're playing 3 games. Do you really think Bayern Munich is going to want Alphonso Davies playing on AstroTurf 3 times or 2 times in a week with a game in between before going back to playing for Bayern Munich and their bi-weekly crazy busy schedule because they have Champions League on top of Bundesliga on top of DFB Pokal? That's just a lot of games, and to throw in AstroTurf on top of that, it's not healthy really for the players, and like for our own World Cup qualifying hopes, it's not good for their health. So really, that leaves us down to BMO Field. BC Place is weird, but like it's rated and people don't really treat it like AstroTurf. I'm not really sure I haven't done the proper research into what the surface of BC Place really is like. And Montreal, which Stade Saputo capacity-wise isn't as big as BMO or BC Place, but like for the national team, given how much attendance they usually get, that's not that much of a problem. They could probably do a 20,000 seater. Then of course is the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, which costs $1 bajillion every time you use it because it's falling apart. So I don't see Canada Soccer shilling out the money to use that. That's another option though. So the main options, of course, are BMO Field, BC Place, and then either Stade Saputo or the Olympic Stadium. Random, throw it out, maybe options. Spruce Meadows in Calgary, although with the sight lines and the fact that the attendance maxes out at like 5,000 doesn't make that likely. Victoria, they were going to play friendlies there versus Trinidad and Tobago in Pacific Stadium, but again, you get capacity issues, and also playing in BC Place and then saying, oh, our extra not BMO Field BC Place game is going to be in Victoria. It's not really that good of a look because it's like, okay, like that's basically right next to Vancouver, like literally the next city over. So that's kind of like still exclusive to BC. And the other one, kind of like Pacific Stadium, Wanderers Ground in Halifax. That would be absolutely incredible to see a game at Wanderers Ground. But again, 6,000, 6,500 max capacity, you get into capacity issues there again, where, again, just for a Nations League game in Toronto against Cuba, they were getting more people than that. So really, that's the issue with where the Canadian national team can play these games, is because really there's 2 criteria. You need a stadium that's grass, and you need a stadium with a capacity of over 20,000 at least. And there's only really 2 options. Now, yeah, BC Place is polytan, but that's like high quality turf. I don't know, it's weird. BC Place, BMO Field. Stade Saputo is weird, but besides that, like, as sad as it is, the infrastructure in Canada just isn't there to have every city getting a game in the World Cup qualifiers. It would be amazing if they had like a Maritime game, Quebec game, Ontario game, Manitoba game, Saskatchewan game, Alberta game, BC game, I think that's 7. But like, it's just not in the cards right now with the stadiums and the structures that they currently have, which is unfortunate and really sad that people who live in like Halifax or in Saskatoon or whatever don't have an easy way to go watch the Canadian soccer team play in a World Cup qualifying match. But, until the CPL gets bigger and builds quality stadiums for that league, that's just kind of the reality of the situation right now. So there you go. First time since 1997 that Canada's made the final round of CONCACAF World Cup Qualifiers. Can we finally qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 1986? The journey starts this September. So that does it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description. I will see you next time.